Hi, I'm Georgette Pierre, and you are watching Black and Nuanced Podcast in HD, a visual extension of my podcast of the same name, where we seek to dispel the idea that all Black people are monolithic. And I have DJ Poizon Ivy in the head. You're so funny. I definitely interviewed another DJ, and she did the same thing. I was like, this must be DJ energy.
It's like I blew I always want to play my own air horns for myself. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I think it's the coolest sound effect in the world. I don't care how much it gets played. It will never get old. And so, yeah.
But you can do, that's the one noise you can do with your mouth, or like the club scene, unks, unks, unks.
Oh, yeah. And that's it. Other than that, my sound effects, I couldn't replicate them like with my mouth. So it would be, that's the most effects you can get from me.
Yes, I love it. Come on, Headside. We were just offline talking about like what we got to do to get ourselves together for Zoom interviews. Y'all just do not. I mean, people know they have, but like I know men are struggling because their beards and things are growing out, but like women over here, like, I mean, yeah.
That's a struggle. I mean, I get it. Let me not be dismissive, but since something about me just would not let me act like I just did my hair to get on a live. So I want to tie my head wrap.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. So I'm based in New York, but I came to my mom's house for refuge while New York calms down.
You said refuge.
It's refuge, Ivy. I'm telling you. And I was just like, Mommy, I got to get my wigs. I got to get all the things, Ivy. Because I was just like, I had to take my faux locks out. They were in there too long. I was like, I'm looking like Sealy under here, okay?
I mean, that's, let me tell you something. I have gone and dug really deep in my headscarf drawer, and I am determined to find every way to tie my headscarves.
Yes. Until
I decide I'm not going to do it. Because
yes.
Girl, I tried to twist my hair the other day, my arm almost fell out. I was like, this is
too much. Like my mom laughed at me when I pulled my wig off in front of her in the kitchen. She was like, what? I'm like, Mommy, I told you this is a thing. Like I had a quick interview and then I'm done.
Look, and that's funny because I have a little girl, and a part of me has been very aware of the nuances that I send by doing stuff like that. Because I was the one who lived in fresh under braids and then would just like, do the whole don't rush challenge with the wigs every day. Yes. And then I was like, what's my little girl gonna grow up thinking? Like, in order for me to look quote unquote pretty or presentable, I have to have another kind of hair that's not the kind that grows up into my head. Yeah. So that triggered my whole I gave away my wigs, actually, believe it or not.
Did you? I'm sure you had some bad wigs too, honey. Like some good looking ones.
I had some girl, our hair, man. We had some, but I had to give away all the ones that don't look like they would grow up out of my head.
That's a good point. So she could just like Mommy, like she feels like that's her hair too. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if I do wear a wig, at least it's just a more either volume or colors, but it represents the texture of what naturally grows up out of our head. Yes. Just the other stuff.
I love that. So you're in Dallas, but you're from, is it Nairobi? Is that how you
Nairobi? Yes. I live in Dallas, by way of Dallas, but I was born in Nairobi for sure.
How has it been? Because my family's from the islands, and I know there's a different type of pressure when your family is not from the United States to succeed. Mm-hmm. They see success completely differently than with us being born in the States or, growing up in the States. Yeah. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been similar to most, first, second gen immigrant families. This is the land of opportunity, and it's our responsibility to get our little chunk of the American dream, right? But I will say, I do have a mother who's a little bit more on the liberal temperate scale in terms of those pressures. I obviously never, if I had $1 for every time I got asked a question like, you're a professional DJ, how do your parents feel about that? And I'm like, take it or leave it. They never, she never really was the one who pushed anything on me. Matter of fact, she just encouraged me to be excellent at whatever it was that I, decided to pursue. And actually a lot of times where I was ready to change course or whatever, she was like, come to Florida, drop it. You know what I mean? So she's my number one fan, number one supporter. She's always she's always on my side, man, just trying to help me make this thing work. So I've been really fortunate. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's my mom is a nursing supervisor. She's from Tobago. My dad's from Trinidad.
My mom's a nurse too.
See, and God bless their hearts as far as like being essential workers. But my mom always wanted me to follow the trajectory of go to school, get a good job, don't depend on the man, right? And so, right, because
that whole spiel. I love, girl. If there's one thing I wish I had though was an island accent. Like my best friend's parents are Jamaican. She's Jamaican.
Yes.
I'm just like, give me that.
Give me that. But you know what?
Give me that.
Once you push through like what they like not doing what they wanted you to do, my mom was supportive because she saw that I wasn't backing down on a lot of those things. And so I love the fact that your mom is because I mean, like you definitely have carved out this lane and career path for you. And so I mean, like just representing as a Black woman, you're the in-arena DJ for the Dallas Mavericks, but that is not where you started. How did you kind of navigate through DJing being something that you really wanted to pursue, just even music curation? Because I feel like DJing is just, it kind of, I know people get called DJs, but it's just so much more than DJing. And so
I really appreciate you for saying that. You're probably the first person that I've spoken to who has properly articulated that. Because actually I recently decided that I was going to ditch being called a team DJ and rewrite that narrative and mandate that everybody refer to me as the sound strategist, because that is what I do. I strategize sound, whether it's in arena, whether it's throughout the organization when it comes to anything that is a musical asset or a sound asset. I get consulted, so I don't even, me personally, to be real, I don't even have turntables in my arena. I run, an instant replay software. But I am a DJ and, outside of that. So it's been a long, crazy, wild journey. And, very obviously with the time to do, a lot of interviews and conversations, and has given me a lot of time to reflect on how much of a winding road this has been. I mean, I guess you can say I've been into music my whole life. I started playing piano at, there goes my earring. I started playing piano at 5 years old. Yeah. So my grandmother got me a baby grand piano at 5. And, just been a music enthusiast my whole life. I was an dork. I played cello and orchestra in middle school. I can hold a little bit of a note. So I always thought at some point I might be a pop singer, like the whole nine. At a time when North Texas was generating, Nick Lachey and The Simpsons and all of that, I was like, oh, yeah.
That's all from Texas?
There was a time when North Texas was cranking out pop stars, honey.
Oh, wow.
Like, I forget what academy it was here. It was a music exec who had a little bit of like a school down here. Anyway, so that was that. But at the same time, I was a Mavericks ball girl growing up. I grew up with a lot of uncles who introduced me to the game of basketball very early. And so when that opportunity came about, I definitely took it full throttle. And I kind of credit that exposure to maybe subconsciously planting the idea of behind the scenes jobs in sports, obviously, because I saw it all for so long, So I did that for 6 years. And when I got to college, I went to Marquette. I'm a Gemini, so I exist in this perfect duality of where I always wanted to work in music, but always wanted to work in sports as well. And I made it happen. That tenacity that comes with being, of our descent and origin. I had 6 internships, school full time. I was working for Marquette Radio, working for Marquette basketball, interning at the local radio station, interning for the Milwaukee Bucks, and just kind of using each opportunity to fuel the next, so to speak. Kind of got introduced to the guerrilla marketing world in college. I ran the street team for Atlantic Records in Milwaukee and then Chicago. Wow. At some point. So that kind of introduced me to that market, in my early 20s. And then, the DJing part, my frat brothers were some of the biggest DJs in Milwaukee at the time. And,
what's sorority?
I'm a Zeta girl.
Okay, I crossed Delta.
Oh, hey.
What's up? That's what's up. Come on, we have a lot more in common than we realize.
We were literally, it's all still D9 fam, you know.
I love it.
But yeah, so and that's hence the Z in my name. That's the Z in my Poizon Ivy. So
that makes so much
sense. So there's that little tidbit. But yeah, so I mean, he kind of just dropped off turntables in my house and was like, here, figure it out. And before I was DJing and opening parties with him on the college circuit, and then still like building a rapport with local artists and having them on my college radio show. I was just hustling. I was doing it all. And before you know it, one of those artists at the time named Prof, and I used to joke with him. I was like, yo, when you need a DJ, let me know. And one time he came, he was like, yo, I'm doing Summerfest, which is one of the biggest, music festivals in the country, really in the world. And he was like, you want to be my DJ? I was like, sure. Didn't even own my own equipment. I was rehearsing at a community center, but then ended up performing, in front of like 20,000 people, which at the time was the largest crowd for a free stage at Summerfest. And I just remember getting off on that. And I was like, wow, this is a different kind of I was high, so to speak. And, I remember just being hooked, and I hustled. And I mean, there's nothing I didn't do. Nobody I didn't know. I had a pretty vast network. And then at some point, I ended up connecting with Skylar Diggins Smith, who at the time was in Tulsa, as playing with the Shock. But she was touring. She had her own basketball camp called Shoot for the Sky. And I remember getting when you're in this world, you're on just like several listservs. So you get all these emails about everything that you may or may not have signed up for. But thank God this came my way, because I was also very, very hungry. And I've always been one to make a way where there's seemingly no way. So when I saw that, I always ask myself, how is it, how can I be a part of this opportunity? Is it beneficial to my brand and etc. So I just responded, and I was like, hey, I love the DJ if she's a DJ. And that was the birth of our relationship. So I did that camp for her, and then reconnected with her the next year when she had more dates on her tour. And I was her tour DJ. And of course, coincidentally, I had also moved home to Dallas at that point, and the Tulsa Shock were relocating to Dallas. So, all these points of convergence, I just think it's like, divine ordinance. And so that was kind of how I found my way to being the Dallas Wings DJ, their inaugural season in Dallas, which happened to also be the 20th anniversary of WNBA. So that was super special.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then just the importance of the company that you keep. I had a great childhood friend of mine, Belle, who one night was just like, hey, you should just reach out to the Mavs and see if you can maybe just shadow or, find some sort of opportunity there, seeing as to how you're already working with, their other league affiliate. And so I sent an email again to the CMO at the time, who actually, the reason why I sent it to her was because she was the only name that I recognized on the staff roster from my days as a ball girl. She was a PR intern when I was there, and I remember her very well. And at that point, she had worked her way up to CMO.
Oh, golly, so, right.
I know, right? Talk about a lot of things. But she obviously was very responsive. She remembered who I was. But at the time, they did not have an opportunity. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Just, keep me in mind if anything may pop up or make stuff available. And, little do you know, 2 months later, I get a call from my boss at the Wings, like, hey, the Mavs want your information. I think they might need a DJ. Are you interested? Can I give it to them? And I was like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, send them the pen to my house, like whatever they need, and the rest is history. So
that's so crazy. It's so interesting. So when I saw that that you worked for the Dallas Mavericks, I was like, well, with the male-dominated industry of sports, I end up being, so the NBA 2K League came out, which is their first esports, and and so I knew a guy that was working for the NBA, and then he took that on, and so they brought me in, and I didn't really know much about 2K, but I still had like hosting a bit of capabilities and abilities.
But it was
what was so interesting was I felt like I had to prove myself, Ivy, because the first set of teams that started off in the first combine, every manager, because what they did was send affiliates from the actual NBA teams to oversee the esports teams. And everybody, I remember different managers asking me like who I was, what I did, almost kind of like shy of saying like, what are you doing here? Right.
Run your credentials 1,000%. Or how did you get here?
Essentially. Yeah. Essentially, like, how did you get here? And so even though I didn't put out the way they initially hired me for, I showed out in other ways. And so even though I was only there for the week, even though the season was through the summer, I thought it was very interesting. And so I read that you were the second female DJ in history, NBA history, right? Which I think is kind of so interesting because like as women, we have to still go through all these firsts, right? Black women like is another thing. But what has that experience been like for you with the NBA and just sports in general?
Yeah, it's been a learning curve. I will say that for sure. Obviously I don't play. I mean, I'm not like, I never play like collegiate because, a lot of people who tangentially end up either as reporters or hosts or just around that ecosystem kind of are a part of the ecosystem from when they were athletes or etc. And I wasn't that at all, and so that already in itself is, I wouldn't say a strike against me, but it's like, okay, well, but then, my knowledge of the sport is pretty evident, it's been crazy. I mean, I've had people tell me like, even just in the city, with a team like Dallas, a franchise like Dallas, very highly, I mean, all teams are, but very highly visible, high profile, etc, traditional. And I've had people tell me like, there are people who deserve this job before you do, just based on what they've quote unquote done for the city, or I mean, you can insert a lot of other things
I believe
that I can send my way, but I'm damn good at what I do. That I mean, and nobody can take that away from me. I never came in claiming to be anything that I wasn't. And I think that's really, really important. I've brought my authenticity to that role. I've defined that role, not only for myself, but now, there are 2 other team DJs that are like basically full-time who assume tenure after me that have been like, man, I remember reading about you and this, that, and the third. I'm like, whoa, too soon. You know what I mean? Too soon. But no, I mean, now there's 3 female DJs in the league, and so I am embracing that role of being a pioneer in my own right. And that sounds really weird for me to even say that. I have done a lot to define what it means to be in this role in so many different ways. So yeah, I've definitely felt it. You get the stares, and even, now I do a lot of like media and stuff, and you get the looking for your credentials and all that kind of stuff. But I run my arena. I wish you would ask me what I'm doing.
I wish I would.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? I think I've learned that you definitely, no matter what you do, you have got to move with a very clear sense of confidence. You know what I mean? Because I'm very, very, very clear about what it is that I do and what I'm there to accomplish. So
yeah. And then you also were you the first? I don't know if they've had any other people behind you or women behind you as far as like the All-Star game. You were the first.
Yeah, no, as much as I know, I'm the only girl who's gotten
DJ an All-Star game.
Yeah, so far, I mean, the All-Star Sunday, that is, that I mean, but I know the girls have kind of been worked into like All-Star Friday, and this year completed my I guess trifecta of being able to be at the helm of All-Star Sunday, Friday, and this year Saturday. But yeah, nope, it's been me. That's it so far that I know of.
Bravo on that. No, I love that. I mean, again, like I feel like we're still not as close as we need to be, where women could just be ingratiated, not just because of their gender, but because of we are great at whatever skill set it is that we do. But
1,000%.
I mean, but if you got to own it, right? And I love that how you own that. I love that. And so You have all these accolades and recognitions galore. You were listed as Forbes 30 under 30. Okay. It's just like, I'm not used to all of this. Like,
no, and you know, like it still weirds me out. Like, again, I've been having to do a lot of talking about myself lately, and I'm just like, I did that for real,
right?
But
and
I mean,
like, you're just going. You got a baby support, and
no, that one stopped me in my tracks because it was something that I had wanted for so long, and I can't even really tell you. I can tell you why though. I've always felt like that was an indicator, almost like a barometer of what 30 to 40 would look like. You know what I mean? And to be able to be on the same list as like a Super Bowl MVP and, you know, I mean, it's insane. You know what I mean? What some of these, my, I guess, fellow listers are doing. And, you know, man, the power of manifestation, truth be told. I mean, I can show you 3, 4, 5-year-old notebooks that have that as a goal at some point, you know?
Right.
And so only I keep saying this, but only I know what that actually means to me. You know, the best way I can verbalize it is that it was a marker. It was like a bar that I had set for myself, and to be able to reach it means that these other goals that I set for myself are also very, very, very within reach as well. So it was an honor. It's a great community to be a part of, you know.
Yeah, I got to get there. I got to get back to writing. I mean, and I also saw that we both share an Emmy because I've received an Emmy during my time working at this network.
Hey,
like, come on, Emmy, because I saw your EGOT status in one of your posts. I was like, that's the same energy I'm on, and it's like accolades, to be honest, Ivy. But it's just like, why not, right? Like,
I mean, and what's funny about that Emmy too is like it was an Emmy, like a piece that was produced about me is what received an Emmy. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's funny because it wasn't even that I was involved in any of the production or anything like that, but the piece was about me and my story and my journey to becoming the Mavs team DJ. So, yeah.
I love that. I'm like, I'm counting. I'm counting immigrant parents, NBA.
Yeah.
NBA. I'm like, all the things. I love this.
Yeah.
I mean, out of all the things that you've achieved, what has been the most rewarding accomplishment for you?
Being my daughter's mom. Like, and that answer will honestly never change. And I don't say it to be, you know, funny or, you know, to divert or any of that. But honestly, especially now, the most humbling thing that I am and ever will be every day is a parent. Because it dictates now so much of what I do and has molded so much of who I am and is like the engine behind my drive. And take that, like, it's the one thing that if you take away from me right now would literally change my life, you know what I mean, to the point where I might not be able to get back to, you know, and where I am and I'm going, you know what I mean? So much of, she's like my compass, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's it. That, you know, and the more and more, you know, that God blesses me with more children, it won't never change. It'll just be, I think on earth, that is the most humbling thing you can be, is having the power to give life, you know, to someone else and then rear that life, you know? So every time we celebrate her birthday, I'm like, oh, I done kept you alive for one more year. You know?
Yeah. I love that. Do you also have a nonprofit? Or are you?
I do, and it's something that you know, and it's not fully like it's. What I understand with nonprofit work, is that I do it so much in the grain of like who I am and what I do on my own, but then the formalities of it are different. So I'm in the process of forming meaning actually registering and operating as an actual government recognized entity, you know what I mean? But Gemini is something that I've conceptualized for a very long time. Obviously I'm a Gemini, and I think that there are a lot of misconceptions.
You broke it up, because I was just like, is she a Gemini or is she like playing on the words? Because I love how
I really am a Gemini, but it is a play on the words Gem and I. Yeah, truly.
I love that.
You know, I got so much flack for being a Gemini for so long, that I had to come and find a way to be okay with that label, right? And I am like, and you broke it down, the word breaks down into gem and I, which really, like, I was like, oh, this is kind of deep. Then I was like, you know, I always thought about like with children and with people in general. And when you think about gems, you know, the more precious the gem, the deeper it is buried, you know. And one thing that I love is being able to be involved in the process of helping people self-discover. You know, I think that's has been one of the most powerful things that I've been able to go through, is really figure out who it is that I am, what I love, who, you know what I mean, what means a lot to me, and then cultivate that. And that's something that I would love to be able to help with, you know, the youth, especially back at home where I'm from.
Yeah.
You know, kind of discover that gem in them. And then, you know, with a gem, you dig it out, then you polish it, you know what I mean? Then you chip it, then you carve it, you know, and then that's when it starts to, it gains its value, right? Diamonds aren't always that shiny when, when you get them from, you got to polish them a little bit and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And yeah, the goal is to primarily operate in the communities that reared me. That being Nairobi, Dallas, you know, city of Milwaukee, and God knows where else life will take me. But I think it's really, really important to pour back into the communities and the people and the places that have so much to do with how I am. So.
Oh, I love that. I mean, my line sister lives in Fort Worth, but I'm supposed to be coming to Dallas.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, so we gotta connect, and so
that's without the shadow of a doubt. That goes without being said, right?
I can't wait. And so, getting into this last segment, all of the things. How have you been maintaining during quarantine? Because I know you also you're with 104.5 as well.
Yes. I'm a mix show DJ on, you know, that wonderful heritage station. So,
yeah.
Honestly, this has been like the weirdest period of life that I can recall as an adult, you know, because one, my mom got COVID. So that was a curveball. Yeah. She, you know, granted, and she got it early on. Obviously she's an essential worker, and much like most of us with friends and parents and relatives and associates and what have you that are working in the medical field, obviously there's a need right now. And with those people, they have a special thing where it's like, where there's a need, they'd love to respond. But I'm like, no, like, stay at home, you know? And of course, she went to work one day and they were doing fever checks and she was feverish, and that's all she wrote. So my support system was essentially taken away, in that my mother, grandmother, and brother, I could no longer see, talk to, take my child there. So it's been me and my kid for 8 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm. But everyone's doing okay now, though. The family,
everybody's great. Family's wonderful. We've been able to reunite and you know, all that kind of stuff. So it was great. It was crazy that my mom lived with them for all that period and they didn't get sick. So, you know, it's been like one massive experiment, so to speak. You know what I mean? Just kind of seeing how close in proximity you can be with somebody that's infected, and still, you know, if you mind your cleanliness, etc, and still be okay. So it's been rough, because again, like, it was just me and Shawty for like 8 weeks straight, homeschooling, adjusting to working from home, trying to figure out how to make up for the lack of income. And people think this whole live streaming thing is just like, yeah, I get in front of my computer or my phone and I just play all day, all night long. And it's like, no, because it doesn't work like that for everybody. And I think that's what people have to be very mindful of, is that home does not look the same for everybody, you know? And so then, you know, all that hustle culture of like, everybody's getting it in the digital world, and what are you doing, and this, that, and third. I had to take a break, child. Like, it broke me down. Like, I definitely made several calls to my therapist, and I was like, this ain't right. And I felt guilty for feeling this way, because it was like, you know, I have a job, I have a salary, I have benefits, we have a whole, like, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good, but I'm not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's very important for us to be open about that. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to not know why you're not okay. Talk to somebody, you know, because all it took was for her to explain to me that your body is essentially going through fight or flight. And it doesn't seem like your typical disastrous situation, but everything that you know to be normal is out the window. So mentally, you know, your psyche is processing this as a crisis, you know. And so I'm very vocal about everybody kind of keeping up with their mental health, even when it seems like we're just at home, you know?
No, I know. It's the well, it was this woman I was talking to, she's a coach, and she was just like, the fact that she's like, we've never done this before. And so we don't know what this looks like. We don't know how to really navigate this. Like, you know, in New York, I was so used to walking around up and down the steps. I live in a walk up, you know, that was my exercise. And then I come home to my mom's house. I'm eating cake, drinking wine at like 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to bed at 6 a.m. I'm waking up at 1:00 in the afternoon. It just, I was like, I don't know. Like, I was just like, Georgia, you got to go and walk. You got to do something.
Something. Yeah. I mean, but then it's that, and I mean, the added layer to that too is, you know, even before this Ahmaud Arbery case, I remember thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, I'll just start walking more. And I'm like, but wait, I can only walk in the morning or in the evening, and neither one of those times seems safe to me. You know what I mean? Because if I go on a walk, I'm either taking my kid with me on a bike, or even if I do go alone, like, you know, I've never been the outside exerciser, you know what I mean, ever, you know, but now that that's the only option, it's like, oh, wow, you mean to tell me that I have to consider personal safety in all of this, you know what I mean? And it's just,
I thought about that.
Big, yeah.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
That's it. It's exhausting. That's really it. That's
no one else that's you know, everyone that's a non-person of color, like, they don't have to think about these things. Because the other thing that I thought about was also the shaming of productivity. Like, how productive are you being during these times? And I started seeing it really heavily online. And like, when I first came to my mom's house, because I've been here for almost 2 months now, the first 3 weeks, Ivy, couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. Like, I mentally didn't want to do anything. I was just exhausted. And I was like, I don't have the wherewithal to just pick up and start doing my podcast again or other things. And then when I got back in the thick of things, I'm like, okay, cool. But even still, I have moments where I crash.
And it's like, I'm still struggling with that now. I mean, because for me, there's a healthy dose of, okay, so now I have to actually start trying to tap into ways to monetize online, you know, because, I mean, let's be real, like, I need the money, you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, well, this is how you're going to have to function for now, you know? But even with that, like you said, there was an element of those who are flourishing at it, have figured it out, this, that, and the third. But I'm like, when the world opened back up, you might not be able to do it like I do back in the real, you know what I'm saying? So I've just told myself I've never struggled with anxiety the way I have over these past couple of like weeks. And the one thing I saw somebody say this on Twitter, I was like, I wash my hands of it. If it even brings me the slightest inkling of stress, I'm not doing it. You know, I'm not doing it, you know. So just, you know, I encourage everybody to stay sane, man. Do whatever you need to do to stay sane within a healthy limit, and don't fall under societal pressures, you know, of just the hustle culture. You know what I mean? Like, this might be the only time we do get the rest. So, like, you know what I mean? When the world opens back up, I'm not gonna get this time back. So I'm gonna actually use it to rest and rejuvenate, because I haven't done it so long. You know,
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Even though Texas is acting an ass, just like Florida and Georgia, with opening up early, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do y'all?
Honey, I told people, look, I don't mean to be the pessimist in the situation, but this, what you're not gonna do is you're not gonna catch me out for as long as LA or New York decides, or even then, like, I'm gonna set my own quarantine boundaries. Like, when work makes me go back to work. And thank God I have an owner and a boss who actually, you know what I mean, is doing his due diligence and making sure that, you know, his community and his company and his employees are not within, you know, harm's way. I'm not, because I honestly don't think that we've seen the extent that, and I don't mean to be the pessimist, but I don't think we're going to know how bad this thing is until we have to function in a quote unquote open world. That's when we're going to get to know how bad, so that's me. that's me.
On that. I know. Well, yes, you stay safe. So Ivy, how can they find you online?
Absolutely. Okay, so it's Poizon Ivy the DJ. That's Poizon with a Z, Poizon IvyThedj.com. That's the home base, but it's that across all socials. So Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all that. If it's out, I'm probably on it. So just search that. Might not be active on it, but I'm probably on it. You know what I mean? But everything is at Poizon Ivy the DJ. Or PoizonIvyTheDJ.com.
Have you fallen into TikTok yet?
Girl, there was a week that I was like, you know what? Let me do it. And it's actually really fun. My daughter and I did some TikTok, so it's been a bonding activity. However, I will say this, man, TikToks can be full out productions, man.
I've been seeing people's videos. I was like, this is too much.
It's a 15-second video that you shot all day. It's like, how do you even keep your app open that long? Doesn't it delete it at some point? You went to the mall, then you went home, then you went here. You tell the whole story in 30 seconds. I don't get it, girl. It ain't. Look, I may have aged out. I bow out gracefully.
I love it. Ivy, thank you so much. We will definitely link offline.
It has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.